The U.S. immigration crackdown has reached an unprecedented level, delivering devastating news to thousands of immigrants. In 2025, the Trump administration is significantly escalating deportations, specifically targeting certain countries like never before. Number 1. Honduras. Immigration raids are intensifying, and thousands are being rounded up, placing Honduras squarely at the center of this crackdown. With over 261,000 Hondurans facing deportation orders in 2025, ICE is moving rapidly. Families are being separated, and entire communities are reportedly disappearing overnight, while flights back to Tegucigalpa are increasing. The crucial question is, why now? Why this massive crackdown? The Trump administration asserts these actions are about law and order. However, many of these deportees have lived in the U.S. for years, working and raising families. Some even have American-born children. If this is happening to them, who will be next? Honduras already grapples with significant challenges, including crime, economic instability, and limited job opportunities. Sending thousands back without a coherent plan could exacerbate these issues. Given Honduras is on the list, which country follows? Number 2. Guatemala. The numbers are indeed rising, with thousands more being forced out. Guatemala is now among the hardest hit nations, with over 253,000 people facing deportation orders in 2025. The U.S. justifies this by citing national security concerns and ramping up immigration enforcement. However, the reality for many Guatemalans is stark. They have resided in the U.S. for years, often filling jobs that Americans are unwilling to do. Some have U.S.-born children, while others fled violence and poverty, only to be returned to the very dangers they sought to escape. The Guatemalan government has agreed to accept more deportation flights than ever before, including individuals from other countries. But what will be the consequences when thousands return to a nation already struggling with high unemployment and crime rates? If Guatemala is on the list, what about Mexico? Number 3. Mexico. For years, immigrants from Mexico have built lives in the U.S., taking jobs that are vital to the economy. But in 2025, the Trump administration is cracking down more rigorously than ever, and deportation flights are increasing at an alarming rate. Mexico is facing the most significant impact, with over 252,000 Mexicans now confronting deportation. ICE has intensified efforts, targeting those with expired visas, prior offenses, or simply those caught in the system. The result is more torn families, more businesses losing workers, and a deepening crisis along the border. For decades, the U.S. and Mexico have operated under an unstated understanding. Millions would cross the border to work, send remittances home, and often establish permanent lives. However, with mass deportations, thousands are now being sent back to a country some haven't lived in for decades. Imagine being forcibly returned to a place you barely remember, where opportunities are scarce and violence is a daily reality. Number 4. El Salvador. Another country now at the center of mass deportations is El Salvador. Families are being separated, planes are departing daily, and those who once called the U.S. home are being forced back. Over 23,000 Salvadorans are facing deportation orders, and the crisis is unfolding rapidly. Many of these individuals fled years ago, escaping pervasive gang violence and extreme poverty. Now, the U.S. is sending them back to a country still grappling with high crime rates and instability. For years, El Salvador has contended with some of the world's highest homicide rates, fueled by gang wars and economic turmoil. Many deportees will return with no home, no job, and no means of survival. Some no longer speak Spanish fluently, having grown up in the U.S. What happens when thousands are suddenly forced back into these conditions? Furthermore, ICE is not discussing the fact that some of these deportees are not criminals. They have worked, paid taxes, and lived quietly in the U.S. for years, only to be caught in immigration sweeps, thrown into detention centers, and placed on flights to a country they no longer recognize. Number 5. China. A new wave of deportations is severely impacting China, with thousands of individuals suddenly being forced out of the U.S. With over 25,000 Chinese nationals facing deportation in 2025, ICE is escalating enforcement like never before. The shocking aspect is that many of these individuals entered the U.S. legally, some as students, investors, or skilled workers. Now, visa denials and expired permits are turning them into targets for removal. Why is this occurring? Some attribute it to strained U.S.-China relations, while others believe it's economically motivated. Chinese immigrants are prominent in sectors like technology, real estate, and small businesses. Could this be a political maneuver disguised as immigration enforcement? What is not being widely reported is that many of these deportees fear returning to China. Re-entering migrants can face intense scrutiny from the government. Some have openly criticized Chinese policies while living in the U.S., putting them at risk of retaliation upon their return. Others face economic hardship. China's property crisis and slowing economy mean fewer opportunities, even for those with international experience. Number 6, Haiti. Another wave of deportations is tearing families apart, and this time, the focus is on a nation already on the brink of collapse, Haiti. The country is experiencing one of the largest forced returns in recent history, with over 125,000 Haitians facing deportation orders. The U.S. is ramping up ICE flights to Port-au-Prince. However, the devastating truth is that Haiti is not prepared for them. The country is in a complete freefall. Gangs control nearly 80% of the capital, law enforcement is overwhelmed, and basic necessities, food, water, electricity, medicine, are scarce. The government is barely functional, and hospitals are overflowing with victims of violence. Yet, despite this humanitarian catastrophe, thousands of Haitians are being sent back every month. Why is the U.S. deporting people to a country that cannot even support its own citizens? Officials state they are simply enforcing immigration laws. However, critics argue that for many deportees, this isn't merely a forced return, it's a potential death sentence. Some of those being deported have lived in the U.S. for decades, building lives, working jobs, and raising families. Many do not even remember Haiti, having left as children. Now, they are being forced into a nation they no longer recognize, a nation lacking the resources to help them. Number 7, Venezuela. Imagine spending years building a new life, working hard, paying taxes, and raising a family, only to be told you have days to pack up and leave. This is precisely what is happening to thousands of immigrants from Venezuela right now. Over 150,000 Venezuelans are facing deportation, and the numbers continue to climb. For many, America was a refuge from their country's brutal economic collapse, political repression, and food shortages. They came seeking stability. Instead, they are being forced back into a nation that still has not recovered. What makes this even more shocking is that the U.S. previously granted TPS to many Venezuelans, recognizing that returning home was too dangerous. But now, those protections are being stripped away. Families who have spent years legally residing in the U.S. are suddenly being detained, losing their homes, their jobs, everything. The real question is, where will they even go? Number 8, Pakistan. Thousands of immigrants from Pakistan believed they were safe in the U.S. They worked, studied, and built families. But now, the government is sending them back, ready or not. The latest group facing mass deportation is Pakistanis, with over 40,000 targeted for removal. Deportation flights are rapidly increasing. Some have been living in the U.S. for decades, both legally and illegally, only to be caught up in sudden immigration crackdowns. It's not just undocumented workers, even visa holders are being turned away. The U.S. has started rejecting renewals at an alarming rate, forcing people to either overstay or leave. Students on F1 visas, skilled workers on H1Bs, and even those seeking asylum are finding their applications denied. For many, returning to Pakistan is not just inconvenient, it's devastating. The country is struggling with record-high inflation, political turmoil, and unemployment. The cost of living has skyrocketed, and job opportunities are scarce. Some deportees who had built stable lives in the U.S. are now being sent back to a place where they have no support system left. And it gets worse. Some deportees are being flagged by Pakistan's own government for having spent time in the U.S. Authorities sometimes question returnees about their activities abroad, and in some cases, it can lead to further scrutiny or worse. There's also growing tension between Pakistan and the U.S. Deportations have been increasing despite no formal repatriation agreement between the two nations. Number 9. Iran. For years, immigrants from Iran lived in the U.S., believing they were safe, whether they were students, skilled workers, or asylum seekers. But now, the government is cracking down hard, and thousands are being forced onto flights back home. This time, the country facing mass deportations is Iran, with over 15,000 Iranians now facing removal. The situation is growing tense. Many of these individuals fled political persecution, economic instability, or even the threat of imprisonment. Some sought asylum, hoping to escape Iran's strict laws, only to find that their cases were denied, and now they are being forced back. What makes this situation even more dangerous is that Iran's government has a history of targeting returnees. Many Iranians who have spent years in the U.S. are afraid that simply being deported could put them on the government's radar. Authorities are known to interrogate, monitor, and even arrest those who have lived abroad, especially if they engaged in any political activism while in America. And let's not forget the ongoing conflict between the U.S. and Iran. With diplomatic relations at an all-time low, Iran has made it clear that it views certain returnees as potential spies or traitors. This has led to increased crackdowns on deportees who had ties to Western organizations, media outlets, or NGOs. Then there's the economic situation. Iran has been hit by crippling sanctions, inflation is out of control, and job opportunities are scarce. Many of those being sent back have no way to support themselves in a country still struggling under a collapsing economy. Number 10. Uzbekistan. You've heard about Venezuela, Pakistan, and Iran, but what if we told you that even Uzbekistan is now seeing record numbers of deportations? Yes, that's right. Even citizens from Central Asia are being sent back in waves. Over 12,000 Uzbeks are now being deported from the U.S., and for many, the situation is bleak. Most of them came to America through work visas, asylum programs, or student exchanges, seeking better opportunities. But now, the U.S. government has ramped up deportations, and these individuals are finding themselves on flights home, many with nothing left to return to. The biggest reason behind this is visa fraud and expired permits. Many Uzbeks entered the U.S. on temporary visas, but when their status expired, they remained, working in industries like construction, transportation, and hospitality. For years, these workers quietly contributed to the economy, but with the government's new crackdown, they are being rounded up and sent home. And here's where things get complicated. Uzbekistan isn't exactly ready to take them back. The country has high unemployment rates, political instability, and limited job opportunities. Many of these deportees have spent years in America, building lives and families, and now they're being thrown into a system that offers them little to no support. Some deportees fear they'll be blacklisted by their own government in Uzbekistan. The unfolding crisis and the future. So, what does this mean for the future? Who else will be sent back next? We've covered Venezuela, Pakistan, Iran, and Uzbekistan, and the list isn't stopping there. The U.S. is ramping up deportations like never before, and thousands of people are being sent back without a second chance. Some are facing economic devastation, others risk political persecution, and many have nowhere to go when they land back in their home countries. This isn't just about immigration, it's about human lives being thrown into chaos. So, the question remains: who's next, and how far will this go? What do you think about this? Is the U.S. doing the right thing, or is this a disaster waiting to happen?